even in the middle of the hubbub. At this time of year, when so many seem busy and rushed, we rely on the peace of God that resides within to promote calm in my home, in our lives, and in the world. Prayer helps us stay centered, serene, and relaxed so that we can be an instrument of peace, holding thoughts of tranquility and affirming peace in every heart. We move through this day in Advent season, affirming kindness and compassion. We give the gift of peace as we let it flow from our hearts like ripples on a lake or waves on the ocean, sustaining each person in concentric circles of tranquility and goodwill. And the scripture says today, the God of peace be with you all.
Thank you, Sally. Here, I meant to give you one of these also to put John's name up on the tree. They're up here in a little basket, so if you have people you want to add to the tree after the service, there's little ties, and you put this in there, and then you tie your card on the tree. Let me make sure I give you one, Sally, so you can add John's name. We bless him. And I love it. There's an angel on the top of the tree looking over everybody. I'm going to put these on the chair right here. Well, no, because Clint will need to sit there. All right. So we want to bless our children. Is Paul in here? I saw him here. There he is, way down there. We want to bless you too, Paul. Come on down. If you have children and you bring them, Paul's here as the attendant in our youth ed to watch over them during the service. Sometimes you want them to sit with you in the service, but they're just squiggly, and so he's here to be our attendant. You were at the parade last night?
Yeah.
Saw you out there. So we want to give all of our children a blessing, grandchildren, children, all the children in your life, the children in the schools, seeing them safe and protected. So let's take a moment and together, child of light, we love you and bless you. We see the Spirit of God within you, guiding, protecting, and prospering you always, always. Thank you, Paul, for being here every week, whether he has kids or not. Faithful, reliable, dependable, shows up no matter what. So we give thanks for that. So as we get started this week, I know it's not tax time, but I found a really cute joke about tax time. April 15th, tax time has passed. And if you're worried about an IRS audit, we could say that with the new FBI and people coming into the government. If you're worried about an IRS audit, you should avoid what's called a red flag. So when you do your taxes, there's something the IRS always looks for. Say you have some money left over in your bank account, that's a red flag. Say the wages of sin are death, but by the time taxes are taken out, you just sort of have a tired feeling. And we think our children don't understand tax time, but a young boy had an argument with his mother and decided to run away from home, and on his way out the door he said, "You'll be sorry next year when you can't deduct me." So there we go. I'm going to share today about another young man leaving home as we look at the parable of the prodigal son. I think, well, it's probably one of the most popular because we all have that sense of adventure, that spirit of adventure. We've often thought of Jesus, we said last week, as a great healer, which he was. We've often thought of Jesus as an expert in prayer, which he was. But we need to understand that he also understood and used and taught the spiritual laws of abundance, of really just free falling on God the Father and letting all of your life be assured and protected and blessed. Our story of the prodigal is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 11 through 32. I'm paraphrasing it a little bit here. A certain man had 2 sons, and the younger said, "Give me my inheritance." And the law back then required that the older son got 2/3 of the inheritance and the younger son only got 1/3. And so the younger son took his 2/3 inheritance and he went into a far country and he wasted it in riotous living. And when he had spent all, a great famine arose, and he began to be in want, and no one gave him anything. And we know from spiritual law that no one could, because he was living in a consciousness of waste and recklessness and disrespect for his possessions. And that's not a consciousness that's a sustaining or attracting power in the finances of your life, right? His flow of energy for abundance was reversed. So he's living in this lack and extravagant waste. He was hired by a man to feed swine, which for a Jewish boy is a very difficult job, you know. And at this low point, he had an awakening. And the line in the story is, and he came to himself. He arose and came to himself. Had an awakening that this is not the truth of who I am. There's more in me than this, right? I will arise and go to my father. And with forgiveness and humility, he returned to the father, and the father received him eagerly. And he put on the best robe and shoes and a ring, and he killed the fatted calf and had a feast. And then the elder brother, who'd stayed home, comes in from working in the fields, and he hears the party, and he's angry, and he's jealous, and he's resentful. And he says, all these years I've served you, he says to the father, all these years I've served you and never transgressed. And my brother, who has devoured his inheritance with harlots and is back, and you throw him a celebration, you've never thrown a party for me. And the father says, son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. Let us make merry and be glad, for this your brother who was dead is alive again. Now, this morning I'm going to ask you a question. Raise your hand if you can identify with the prodigal. There's no shame in either one. And how many of you are the steady Eddie older brother? Oh, wow. That's really a lopsided vote in our congregation. All right. So I want to look spiritually at the story to see how Jesus created two sons who represent two parts of us. There is that wild, ambitious, adventurous part of us, and there is that steady Eddie, reliable, dependable person in us. And each part is a spiritual proficiency that we can master and that we can use to live out our best lives. I was reading in Mark Nepo's book, The Book of Spiritual Awakening, about pearl divers. And he said, he gave the story of how they search the deeps in the seas in pairs. And it's a beautiful illustration of this idea of two, where there's two parts of us, the adventurous part and the dependable, reliable part. And he said, without scuba tanks and regulators, the pearl divers dive down, they leave the boat and go under the surface, and the one dives and one stays in the boat tending the line that's tied to the diver. And the one above counts the line and tugs the rope when the diver has just enough air left to come back up to the surface. I don't know how they figure that out, but anyway, when the diver gets back up to the top, they share what was seen, they mark the location, they clean the pearls, and they celebrate their rich finds. The next time, the other one dives, fills the basket down below, and the one above counts the time with his hand wrapped around the line. The one on the surface counts the air time left so that the one below can dive freely. And isn't that I think you think about when you're a young person and you leave home, your parents have this stable foundation that you can come back to so that you can race out and spread your wings and learn to live who you are. I think if I polled every one of you and asked for a story about when you left home the first time, what was that like? I think you'd have a story to tell about how you could always come back home again. My brother moved out. He was the prodigal. He moved out from home, I think the first time when he was 16. He went to live with another family in our high school. I don't know how he did that, but he moved in and out like a yo-yo. Out at 16, back in at 17, out at 18, back in at 20. I mean, he was just in and out, in and out. And I guess I was the elder sister that I just stayed home and was there and helped my mom and dad in their elder years. We were adopted by older parents. And so when we were teens, they were senior citizens, and they needed the help of us as young people. Well, anyway, the younger son in the story symbolizes the pearl diver who dives deep. He has not yet awakened to his spiritual nature in the story. He has initiative, he has daring, he has high resolve, he has an intent, a healthy one, to become successful outside of his family, to make his own way in the world. But he also has an immaturity, or not yet fully developed wisdom. He's split off from the father, which resulted in desperate circumstances. And he began to be in want. The older brother is in us too, the one who counts. That's the part of us that's loyal, constant, dependable, reliable. And even though he stayed home, he too was living in the far country, shut off from his higher self. He was good at doing, but not at living, right? He was good at living. He was good at doing, but not necessarily at loving. He showed no pleasure in his brother's return, and he was living in the desperate circumstances of envy, frustration, and jealousy, right? The prodigal was living in want and deprivation, and the elder son was home living in this unfulfilled desire to have more life in his life. You could say the one brother, that prodigal, was living in emergency circumstances, and the older, desperate emergency circumstances, and the elder brother was living in desperate day-to-day circumstances. You know, I think, well, I don't know, but I mean, many people find themselves in the boredom of their lives where you're just plodding along, making a living, getting a paycheck, and doing all that stuff. And it doesn't feel very alive or very exciting. Now, the father in the story, do we have slides up here, Jack? The father in the story is God. Oh, I found these great slides. Yeah, the father in the story is God, and the father's house, getting back to the father's house, is kind of the theme. And that's arriving at awareness of belief in God as source of love, source of supply, source of all good. And I love this idea how the father runs to meet him. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. The father's house symbolized the foundation of all love, all life, all wisdom, all substance, all power. And no matter how far we stray, getting back to the father's house reunites us with that one source where we are restored, where we can let go and just fall into the protection and the spirit and the love that God is. Getting back to the Father's house is arriving at an awareness of and a belief in God as the source of, we say, love, supply, and good. Because you get out in the far country and you think, where is God in all of this? Or I don't know, I don't really have as much faith as I should. I don't know that it works for me. You get off in all of that. Both sons found themselves in a place of want. And from time to time, raise your hand if you find yourself in the far country, right? You can find yourself in the far country when there's a mountain of credit card debt and you're facing bankruptcy, right? You're in the far country when you have a falling out with your family and you haven't spoken to them in years, right? You're in the far country if you receive a threatening diagnosis and you begin to think about the treatment. What if it works? What if it doesn't work? What if my health stays bad? What if I don't get well? You're in the far country if you hate your job and you want to change, but you have a first and a second mortgage and the kids' college fund and your health benefits and you can't leave because you have to do all of that and you feel stressed out about all of that. You're in the far country. You're in the far country. You can find yourself there if you're so busy caring for a spouse or a family member that you never have time for yourself. And you just like to read a book or take a bath or go work out once in a while to care for yourself. You're in the far country if you feel distant from God, you're out of faith, out of belief, and out of trust, and living in fear and doubt and worry. That's beginning to enlarge in your life rather than faith enlarging in your life. I found myself in the far country this week. It even happens to ministers. I've been deeply involved in writing and creating Christmas sermons that are interesting and, informative and entertaining and spiritual and educational for all of you for the Christmas season. I've been a minister for 24 years, so I've written 24 Christmas sermons, 24 Easter sermons, 24 Mother's Day sermons, 24 Father's Day sermons, and you sit down to write and you kind of go, what can I say, So that's when I go back to my files and pull out my old ones and freshen them up. But I was deeply involved in that creativity, so my mind was on that. And then I'm finally over that cold that was passing through me that was kind of dampening my ability to just do my job. Then I learned that there's a rat infestation in my condo project, and it's specifically around my unit. I have like a fourplex, and the rats are everywhere. And they put out the bait traps, and I followed that storyline to make sure that I'm filled all the holes that they might crawl in to get up into my house and everything. And then some of you know that somehow somebody got into my iPhone and ran a credit card scam on all of you. Not on my friends. Nobody in my contact list of friend. Only contacts in my list that were members of the church got a scam, a financial scam this week. So chasing that down to AT&T and to the iPhone support group and to the whatever, going to the police in Auburn, putting this scam alert out on the e-blast, that all took time in addition to dealing with the rats. And then I went out to my mailbox and I got summoned for jury duty. And I wrote this sermon and I thought, oh, I so need to get back to the Father's house. So even the minister can get into the far country, right? The rats. And good news is I was summoned, but I wasn't called. I skated through that. I don't mind serving, but it was just, Christmas is a busy time for ministers. Anyway, in the Father's house, regardless of the mistakes, regardless of the wild living, regardless of, there's a slide up here, regardless of the overbooked schedules, the whining, the family drama, in the Father's house, the universal God consciousness. There is for us. Love is extended to all. The universal substance is available to all. And the moment we return to that, the moment I sat down in my chair at home and said, geez, Cherie, what in the world is happening? Smell the rose, blow out the candle, get back to the Father, get back to that connection to the source of my life. Things began to smooth out. I got the notice, the email, you're not going to have to serve on jury duty. And the pest control guy was there to kind of reassure me that I didn't have to worry about the rats. My neighbor said one of the rats was in his garage when he put the garage door down. He said, this big rat, and he said he looked at him and the rat just kind of stared him down. And he said he tried to get him out and he wouldn't, so he got a broom and he swept him out into the alleyway, and he said he tumbled over and he got back up and he still looked at the guy like this. I said, I don't want to run into those kind of rats. The moment we return to the Father's house, we can experience the love and be restored to a life of peace and health. Is it not coming up? Where's Jack? Where's Jack? Is he back there? Who's back there? Technical problems. All right. This is, of all the PowerPoint slides I do, these are my favorite. I have these fabulous slides for you of the Father. I must still be in the far country. We got to change that right now. All right, two things are important in the story. Two important prosperity proficiencies to understand. First, the prodigal, the very most powerful line, he arose and came to himself. He had an awakening of the truth of who he is in God. I'm better than this. I don't need this. I have salvation in this. There's support for me. I can return to the Father and experience that love and wisdom and guidance and protection and healing and everything that we need. And the part I love in the story is, while he was yet, you're doing a great job. We so appreciate you. Let's give Jack a hand. Yay. Yay. Almost. There it is. Yay. You're in the far country. We did that one. Okay, next one up. It's there. Who's back? Dave's back there. Keep going. Jesus emphasized, regardless of the mistakes, the wild living, the full schedules, all of that, the Father's house love is extended to all. Next one is, two things are important. There we are. The prodigal arose and awakened to himself as a child of God, the child of the Father. I have this source available to me that is all protection, love, prosperity, and peace. And I can return to it again and again and again. So we love that. We love that. And then the part that I love is, while he was yet a far distance away, the Father recognized him and ran to him. And that's a slide also. Let me see that one. Yeah. Just imagine he goes down to the gate every day and he's looking for this son that's been gone to come home. Holding the high watch, holding love in his heart, knowing all the resources he has for this child if the child will just return. While he was yet a far way off. I love this line because it means You think, I don't have that kind of faith, Cherie. I'm not a minister. I didn't go to seminary for 3 years. I just don't have that kind of faith. I don't have that kind of trust. I don't believe that much. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. While you're still a far way off, developing your faith, developing your trust, developing your prayer life, developing whatever, God is there, ready to meet you, ready to meet you. Still developing while you're far way off in your faith and your belief, far way off from having it all together, the Father ran to embrace the Son upon his return. Despite your condition, your mental state, your emotional state, your financial state, regardless of the amount of belief or faith or trust in God that you have, if you make a way to God, God will make a way, will make a way to you. That's a slide, I think, too. Do we have that one up there? Regardless of your belief, your faith, your trust in God, if you make a way to God, God will run to meet you. It's omnipresent. God is all present, omnipresent, omniactive, omniscient, all-knowing, omnilove. Love is everywhere present. When the prodigal returned, he wasn't accused of anything. No moral shortcomings, no matter what we thought, said, done, no matter how little faith we feel, no matter how trying or dramatic the current crisis is, God is an eternal presence of love that we just get still and allow. Get still and allow. Our Advent this week is peace. Just get into that, hold that space of peace as best you can, I always say. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as best you can. God is an eternal presence of love. God's forgiveness is never a mere pardon. It's a divine act of deep restoration. And I think I have a slide for that also. Now, last week, I talked to you about ChatGPT. I said, how many of you know what ChatGPT is or use it? Like 3 of you. All right. Well, here's an example of ChatGPT. A lot of ministers are using ChatGPT to write their sermons. It would be very tempting to do that. But when I plugged in, God's forgiveness is never a mere pardon. It's an act of deep restoration. Here's what ChatGPT gave me back. Just listen. Get still, close your eyes, and listen to what ChatGPT tells you about forgiveness. God's forgiveness is never a mere pardon. It's a divine act of deep restoration. When God forgives, it doesn't simply overlook our mistakes. He wipes them out, cleansing our hearts and minds. God's forgiveness is a fleeting release, but a thorough healing. It restores the spirit, soul, and body, bringing us back into alignment with God's perfect will. There's more. Unlike human forgiveness, which often leaves scars, God's forgiveness completely renews and refreshes us, offering a fresh start in His grace. You can see this in the picture. There is no get-by consciousness with God. He doesn't just want us to barely scrape through. He desires to make us whole, to lift us up from our failures and mistakes, and to set our feet on the path of true peace, joy, and purpose. I thought, that's good. ChatGPT just keeps, there's more. In God's forgiveness, we are not just excused, we are transformed. His love covers all, and in His embrace, we are restored to the fullness of life that He has always intended for us. Thank you, ChatGPT, right? They write it better than I can. I said, God's forgiveness is never a mere pardon. It's a divine act of deep restoration. And ChatGPT goes, yeah. In God's forgiveness, we are not just excused, we are transformed. His love covers all. And in His embrace, we are restored to the fullness of the life that He has always intended for us. Think about that as you look at that picture. If there's anything in you, any unforgiveness in you, anything you're holding on to, any guilt, any shame, any sin, any mistakes, any regrets, it's just all absolved in that embrace. And there's a power, a universal power, a universal Christ consciousness that can wipe out and cleanse all of that and transform that in you. God's forgiveness is never mere pardon. It wipes out the mistakes, restores the spirit, soul, and body. Nothing in God is a just get by consciousness. Okay, we'll let you get by this time. So God's forgiveness, never mere pardon. It wipes out mistakes and restores the spirit, the soul, and the body. You can just take a deep breath and let go of all of that. Then when the prodigal returned, he was restored to God's as divine substance and supply. The Father gave him a gold ring, put a robe on him, and threw a big feast. And metaphysically, this is kind of interesting. The gold ring that he put on had an emblem on it, and in ancient days, they'd take that ring into the marketplace and show it, and that was a symbol that, oh yeah, you've got financial backing. This is like a credit card. Here, show your ring, and you can buy whatever you want in the marketplace. Some places there was a wax seal, and you dip it in the wax, and your ring that emblem would show up, and that's how you paid for things. When he said he gave him a gold ring, and he clothed him in the goodness that is God. The robe means you're clothed in goodness. And the feast that he threw means that God serves us up lavish abundance for us. There's no mere getting by. That you have everything you need for supply, for beauty, and for lavish abundance in the Father's house. The first important proficiency is the prodigal said, I will arise and return to my Father. Arise and awaken of the Christ Spirit that I am a child of God. The second proficiency that's important is the older brother. He had an opportunity to come to himself. He served the Father faithfully, but he served with resentment. There is nothing prospering about resentment, envy, or jealousy. If that's in your consciousness at all, get it out, because it's blocking you from a flow of abundance. It's a joyous, happy state of mind is an attracting power for good, and it will help us generate increase. Don't you love to be around happy people? You don't love to be around people that are constantly, I don't know, my car broke down, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. I don't know that. Next slide, I think I have that in there. You can demonstrate through the older brother served the Father faithfully, but with resentment, prosperity is not a habit. Resentment is not a prosperity habit that you want to develop. Neither is envy or jealousy. My coworker makes more than I do. I remember one time I was hired to manage the Coldwell Banker office, and my salary, I had the number one of the top 10 offices in the nation, and I was not paid the same as the other managers. And I called HR, I said, this doesn't seem right. Well, I was hired last one in, and so that was my starting salary. I said, I don't care, I'm producing more money for you than any other office in the nation. Didn't seem to matter. So I couldn't have any jealousy or envy around it. I had to just roll up my sleeves and keep working to prosper the office and all the agents and everything that was going on. You can't serve with resentment or envy or jealousy or critical thought that just blocks the flow of your prosperity. I did get a $15,000 bonus that year. So that was pretty good based on how the office was doing. It comes back to you. If you just let go and let God, it comes back to you. Side note, parentheses, in that phone scam that was going on this week, somebody fell victim to it and went out and spent a lot of money I think several $100s. And then came to me and said, so happy that they'd help me with this request. And I said, it's a scam. And I felt like I dumped a bucket of ice water on the person, they were just so happy to have helped. So on the drive home, I called the person. I said, are you okay? And he goes, yeah. And we affirmed together, your good is yours by right of consciousness. If you have good, there's no one that can take your good from you. If it's yours because your consciousness created it, and no one can take it from you. If it goes out of your life, it will come back to you in equal or greater measure. And so we affirmed that together on the phone, and then I got an email from him the next day, and he said all the money was returned. All the money was returned, which made me feel so good. So good, as I'm sitting at AT&T saying, why is this happening? All right, next slide. A joyous, happy state of mind is an attracting power for good that will generate increase. Generate increase. And you can demonstrate through joy what you will never demonstrate through a strained, critical, fearful, judgmental, overworked state of mind. You can't live in that tension. It cramps the flow of life. It cramps the flow of abundance. It seals off any way that the universe can flow abundance in and through you. When the older son said, "All these years I've served you and you've never done anything for me," the truth is the father couldn't do anything for him because he was living in a consciousness of jealousy and resentment and envy and unhappiness. He couldn't do anything for him. Those are repelling energies. Those kinds of envy, jealousy, all of that, those are repelling energies. And it rejects any good that tries to come into your life. When the older son said, "After all I've done for you," the father responded, "Son, you are ever with me, and all that is mine is yours," reminding the older brother of his unlimited good and his right to access it. Just step into the silence. Get out of all that junk and step into that state of peace that we're affirming in the Advent candles this week. The father understood that love was the one thing that could break the inertia of the older brother's unhappiness. In the Father's house, joy and love are plentiful. And I love this. He says, just come to the party and be glad, right? Stop all the whining. Whereas it come to the party and be glad. The Father understood love was the one thing that can break through that inertia of jealousy and resentment and negativity. Isn't that a great shot? I love that one. You never need to envy anyone. It's a paralyzing energy. It's a blocking energy. Some people spend a lot of their lives comparing themselves to others, and they try on others' skins at the rejection of their own, what it feels like to be in someone else's shoes, rather than just loving and caring for themselves, knowing that you are a child of God and you have access to all that is in the Father's house, all that is in the kingdom. When we compare ourselves to others, we only experience the tension of comparison. The Father speaks beneath the pain, beneath the disillusionment, beneath the envy of comparing. And he says, all that I have is yours. And if we can hear it and feel it and begin to believe it, then it can open us up. It can open the flow in our lives. I think that's also a slide. Yeah, I love this one. In the Father's house, joy and love are plentiful. You never need to envy anyone. Envy is a paralyzing energy. That could be a bar scene at any bar in town, right? It's just, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. All right. The Father says, all that I have is thine. And if we can hear it and believe it, it can open up the paralysis in our lives. You wonder, why is my life blocked? Why don't things work out for me? Just examine yourself from head to toe and say, what in me could be blocking this? What's resentful? What's distrustful? What's jealousy? What's envy? What's disbelief? What's no trust? Whatever it is. And just boot it out for the day and then watch your life. To return to the Father within is to know who you are. Not by titles, not by initials after your name, not by family of origin, not by where you work or where you live or what designer clothes you wear or what designer bag you carry or how much you earn, not even if you're a minister, but by your feeling place in relation to the Holy Spirit. Do you step into the fullness of God and feel it? Feel it. And then we go about our day, we get busy, but to take time throughout the day. I always love the idea that Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, would walk around the house and all of a sudden he'd stand still and he'd go into what is called the silence. He'd just take a moment to lift up into the idea of the allness of God. Rosemary, his granddaughter, who's a personal friend of mine, used to say, growing up in the house, her little friends would come over to play and Charles Fillmore would be standing there like this and they'd say, "What's wrong with your grandfather?" And Rosemary said, we just said, "Oh, he's in the silence." Like that happened in everybody's house, right? Oh, he's in the silence. And he would take time throughout the day to stay aligned and centered with the truth of God, to stay in the feeling place in his relationship to the Holy Spirit, to the Spirit within him. Each of us finds ourselves in the far country from time to time. And it's our responsibility to weave our way back to that incorruptible spot of wholeness that's within us. That every child, every person born into the world is born with a light that comes from the light and lives in that light. No matter how far we've strayed, our wholeness, our success, our happiness, and our health. Let's see the unencumbered spot. There it is. Each of us is born with an unencumbered spot, pure and free of expectation, regret, and fear, where we are first touched by God and we come out from that universal consciousness into this life, into this form, into this body, into this spark of the light of truth. I can't call the scripture to my mind right now, but it's the light that lights every person that comes into the world. And that's in you, that unencumbered spot of pure and free of expectation, regret, and fear. No matter how far we've strayed, our wholeness, our success, our happiness, our health depend on returning to the Father's house again and again, again and again. It's in returning that we are restored. It's in returning that we find that eternal peace. And so we want to affirm today, I want to invite you to affirm, today I remember to live my divine identity, that I am a child of God. Let's affirm the bottom line. Today I remember to live my divine identity. I am a child of God. And then put your hand on your heart and let that heart space in you awaken, and let's affirm, I am a child of God. Together, I am a child of God. And then softly, I am a child of God. And silently. And so it is. Amen. All right, let's seal that in a time of prayer. Take a moment to feel after that your birthright, that you are a child of God. And so let's take a deep breath in and think about that story of the father and the son. It could be the father and the daughter. And just being nurtured, pulled up into that lap of love, into that assurance and that reassurance that all of the days of your life, no matter where you are, no matter the circumstances, you are loved, you are protected, you are provided for. And it doesn't matter how much you believe it, the mustard seed of belief is enough. And when you turn to the Father turns immediately, rushes with an influx of universal power to meet you, to heal your heart, to heal your life. Son, you are always with me. All that I have is thine. Come into the party and be glad. This morning we take definite steps to release any resentment, criticism, or negativity, to drop it all down by our sides. Let it fall to the floor, and just live fully your true identity as a child of the Most High. If there's something in your life today that's had you feeling that you're in the far country, take these few moments of prayer to return to the Father. That universal presence. In that presence there is infinite intelligence, wisdom, and guidance for your way. In that presence there is abundant supply, provision to meet your every need, to provide a lavish abundance for your life, not just meeting needs. In that presence there is love and comfort, compassion and understanding for your heart, There is one who comes as comforter, even the presence of Jesus Christ, to be with you as a presence of comfort and love, to strengthen you, give you hope and courage as you move forward. We bless all the names on our Christmas tree, all the names in our prayer chest of those who have asked for prayer from this ministry, knowing they are eternal children of God, that love that is once given and been received can never be lost. And the love we feel for those who have been a part of our lives, we give thanks for them and bless them. And in the story of the prodigal, this Christmas season, we open ourselves to the reality of Christ is born anew in me. Hallowed be this presence within me. Christ is born anew in me. Let's affirm it. Christ is born anew in me. Hallowed be this presence within me. Together. Hallowed be this presence within me. The word hallowed is holy. Holy is this presence within me. And so we feel after that unencumbered spot of grace, spot of light and truth and peace, and give thanks. And for a few moments in the silence, just let God be God in you. Let that wisdom speak in you and through you for whatever you need, for the greatest peace for your life right now. I am a child of God. And in the silence, I am a child of God. Again, I am a child of God. And for remembering this today and realizing it in greater fullness, we give thanks now in the name and the nature of the one who said, Father, I thank you that you hear me and that you hear me always. And together we all say, Amen.
A new and glorious morn. the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy and grateful chorus raise we, that all within us praise his holy name. Oh, on your lips, oh, hear the angels' voices, oh, night be wide overnight, when Christ was born. Oh, night be wide, oh, night, holy
Will the ushers please come forward? Would you please repeat this with me? God is my source. I give and receive in love.
Thank you to the Unity of Auburn Choir for sharing themselves with us. Huh? How about that? Brave and exciting. It was wonderful to, when you love to sing and you have an opportunity to share your voice, that's so great. So thank you so much. We're blessed, and we are blessed. Couple of announcements. Anybody here for the very first, second, or third time, raise your hand so we can give you a blessing. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you for being with us today. There's a guest book in our entryway. If you sign that, register your name and phone number, email. We promise to follow you forever with blessings of love. Only blessings of love. It helps us know that you visited with us today, and then you get a little card from me and a blessing in the mail. So that's always nice. God bless you. I hope the message was meaningful to your heart today, and that you have the forgiveness energy that when our AV Tech does such a fabulous job. He's such a young guy up and back. Let's give Jack a hand. It all works out. So thank you, thank you. Let's see. Let's see. The Winter Solstice Spirit Drum Circle is scheduled for December 22nd, 5 to 6:30 p.m. here in the sanctuary. Our Unity offices will be closed from December 23rd through the 30th so the staff can work in peace and after the holiday get everything organized they need to do. I'm starting a new class at the first of the year I'm really excited about. It's called Live the Life of Your Highest Imaginings. How about that? and it's using Dr. Carolyn Leaf's work on Switch on Your Brain, the key to peak thinking, health, and happiness. And it's an 8-week course. It meets in here on Sundays after the service. She talks about reprogramming, building new neural networks in your mind. So you pick one thing that you want to work on, and we're going to build that neural network. And at the end of when I teach you the process, there's 5 steps that she uses. At the end of that, she has a 21-day brain detox process. So we're going to learn the 21-day brain detox process, so you destroy and decompose the networks that have been the lack and fear and doubt and worry, and build up the faith and hope and joy of the networks in your neural network that you want to build up. I'm really excited about the class. It's a fabulous process. It starts the first Sunday after January, and it runs through the end of February, I think, and then in March, and then when you